Monday, April Fool's Day. We
That's
are
right.
not playing any jokes here. We uh, we want to talk about some real stuff that we see a lot of. So, what we typically see when it comes to healing, a lot of our clients identify as empathic or as an empath. So we're building off of the conversation that we had last week on the connection between autoimmune disease and narcissism, and how when you are raised by or connected to a narcissist, that's a pretty major part of your life. We often see people ending up with autoimmune conditions because they are struggling with really stepping into who they really are, because they've been overshadowed by the narcissist for so long, and they've learned not to trust themselves and not trust their own instincts on what's going on for them, and they start to lose their minds a little. So when you're raised by a narcissist, or you are married to one, or you have a major narcissist or a major relationship in your life that is a narcissistic cycle that you're in, it can really lead to a lot of things. So Anthony and I really wanted to kind of piggyback off of this conversation around narcissism and being an empath. So the way that we see it and the way that we talk to our clients about it is that, narcissism really is an issue where the person is unable to empathize and put themselves in the position of someone else and how someone else would feel. They're so overwhelmed typically with how they feel that they can't even get themselves into a position where they could even think of how what they're doing would impact someone else. So most people are not narcissists that are being identified. Like, oh, he's such a narcissist, I don't like him. Just because someone is mean or just because you don't like someone doesn't mean they're a narcissist. It really does take a lot to really hit the scale of narcissism at the level where somebody is really unable to identify with what somebody else might be feeling or thinking outside of themselves. Most narcissists are being driven by shame and fear, and they're trying to cover it up, and they're so engulfed with whatever they're feeling that they just cannot see outside of that and can't even understand how anybody else would feel anything other than the way that they feel. So what happens is when we have a narcissist, and I want you to see it as kind of a scale, you've got the narcissist end all the way over here, and you've got the empathic side all the way over here. We don't want to be too far on either side of the scale. We want to really be balanced. So a lot of you who feel that you're an empath, feel that you are overwhelmed with feeling everybody else's feelings, what ends up happening for a lot of empaths is they don't know how to feel their own feelings. So it's the legitimate flip side to a narcissist. A narcissist can't feel anything other than what they're feeling, can't put themselves in somebody else's position. And an empath can't feel what they're feeling because they're so open to seeing how everybody else is feeling and feeling all their stuff. So you can see why a lot of times people that are too far down on the empath scale are struggling as well. So I want you to kind of think about that for a second. Am I able to connect with my own needs, my own feelings, my own identity? Or am I so focused outside of myself on how other people feel and how they may be feeling that I'm struggling to even connect with my own self? So a lot of times we see people falling into this really extreme version of empathy or empath because they were raised by a narcissist or they've been connected to a major relationship with a narcissist. So they're in a cycle or a pattern, and they learned really early on to stay safe that they had to be hyper vigilant on figuring out how everybody else felt around them, especially whomever the narcissist or narcissists were in their lives. So what this does is this disconnects you from your own ability to feel, your own ability to connect with what is yours and what is not. A lot of the things that we work with our clients, they start to learn really quickly how to identify the difference. Like, that's not mine, this is mine. And then they start to identify and connect with what they really need. If you've overrun that instinct, potentially since you were a little kid, because you thought it was better, safer to identify with, let's say, a parent who was a narcissist, and you had to identify what their needs were before you could identify with your own, you may be struggling right now as an adult trying to figure out what is yours. And you may be feeling anxious, lots of anxiety, because you're taking on everybody else's stuff that isn't yours, and your body's trying to communicate with you that you're taking on this burden of things that aren't yours to have. And when you don't know how to identify the conversation that your body is having with you because you're over empathizing, your body will start to come up with other ways to communicate with you, typically through physical symptoms. So you'll see thyroid disease, you'll see digestive issues, migraines, skin issues, reproductive issues, fertility issues. You'll see heightened anxiety, overwhelm, burnout when you don't know how to identify with what's going on for you. And that's when you see disease coming up, and that's where we see chronic disease coming up, especially autoimmune. Now, the challenge, I think, Anthony, is it 200 autoimmune diseases at this point that have been identified?
About.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's only testing. I know this is what you're about to say. There's only tests for not near that many.
It's like 10% of that is that they really have tests on that.
Right.
So,
and even let's just use the example 10%. So just say there's 20 tests for autoimmune. They're not easy to find. Typically there's thyroid, there's rheumatoid arthritis, there's celiac, there's
Graves, I think, too.
Yeah,
so
just put that up
Hashimoto's
there
and Graves,
with
just stick them together.
Yeah, right. And there's one other one too that we see not quite
lupus?
As much. Yeah, lupus. So those are, I don't want to say easy, but those are more of the common ones. Some of the other ones, it's a highly specialized test, ridiculously expensive. But anyway, sorry.
Or it's just a set of symptoms, right? Like PCOS is just a set of symptoms typically. There's 3 major symptoms for PCOS, and if you have 2 of them, your doctor will say, you have PCOS, when there's no real testing for that kind of thing.
Yeah, and like alopecia is just more, there's no lab for it. It's just major hair loss, right? It's a symptom.
Yeah. So what ends up happening for a lot of people is they're struggling because our conventional medical system depends on the diagnosis for any treatment to really be put forward. So a lot of insurance companies won't pay for medications and things like that unless you have an official diagnosis. And really a diagnosis is just a set of symptoms with a name attached to them. And so a lot of people struggle over time not making the connection on what's really going on because they keep staying in the terrible conventional cycle of I'm looking for a diagnosis, when they know they're not feeling good, they know something's wrong, they know there's more pieces to it. And when you have a core root issue, like you have a trauma response that you need to make sure you understand where everybody else is feeling before you can identify with where you are, or you've so disconnected from how you feel. That's a root cause to a lot of the symptoms that end up being diagnosed or never really getting a diagnosis for autoimmune and other chronic illnesses. So you've got diabetes is the other one. So you've got obvious connections where you can see on a lab, oh, there's official diabetes, there's official problems. But if you're somebody who says, oh, I'm an empath, what ends up happening is your body has been trying to converse with you, but you're now in a positive trauma cycle with that, or you're identifying as the empath, you're actually reinforcing the empathic side of you, and you are disconnecting from the narcissist side of you, which you actually need in order to step forward and connect with who you really are, and the messages that your body is telling you that it's trying to communicate with you. So we don't want to be on the extreme side of either of those. You don't want to be a full-blown narcissist. You don't want to be a full-blown empath. Now, in our society, a lot of people associate being empathic, being an empath, with positivity. And this is a really good thing, and let's strive towards that. But when you're an extreme version of this, you start to struggle. You don't want to be all in on the narcissist side either, because you don't want to disconnect from how other people are feeling. We want to come closer to the center. And most of our clients would identify at some level of being empathic. But what they don't realize is that they're now struggling because of that connected identity. So if you've got digestive issues especially, and you are running around identifying as an empath, your digestive system is trying to tell you that you're not capable of digesting life through the identity, through the lens that you are using to connect with the universe, to connect with other people, to connect with the world, to connect with yourself. So I want I'm seeing some more stuff in the chat here too. Yeah, and yes, it's not. I'm not saying it's bad to feel empathic. What I'm saying is, if you were an extreme version of that, and you were leaning so hard into that you were shutting down any ability to connect with who you are, you're losing out on the conversation your body's trying to have with you. And every single symptom, every single one of them, is a way for your body to associate, communicate, tell you something that's going on. That's it. And I don't want to oversimplify that, but I think I may have, is that every single symptom is your body raising its hand saying, hey, I'm trying to get a conversation going with you. Will you pay attention to me? And those of you who are super empathic, raised by a narcissist, connected to a narcissist, married to a narcissist, a lot of you struggle with the ability to understand what it is that you're going through because you learned through trauma that if you focused on yourself, you could be in danger. I know it is horrible, Alicia, I agree with you. But there's a way out of it. And this is the thing. We need to start having more of these honest conversations on what's going on. And what we end up having to teach a lot of our clients is how they come up the scale to be a little bit further into the middle and develop some more very effective, helpful, good, healthy versions of their narcissist side. I'm not saying you go to the extreme. I'm saying we go into the middle because balance is what the body is looking for, right? Homeostasis, balance. And how do we get out of the cycle? Well, I mean, the first thing, Alicia, is the fact that you're even here seeing that there's a cycle to be gotten out of, right? And that we realize that there is a problem, but it's just conditioning. It's just the body's confusion that if you stay in this overly empathetic side, that you'll stay safer because that's how you were conditioned by whomever the narcissist or narcissists were in your life. I was raised by a narcissist. I was married to a narcissist for 15 years. And now looking back, it's so obvious. And now looking back, I can't believe I didn't see the pattern. But of course I didn't see the pattern because I thought that was a normal pattern because I grew up thinking that was my job to make sure the narcissists in my life were taken care of. So we're seeing a lot more of these extremes happening, right? Alicia, of course. I mean, it's not shocking, right? So when you start to back into this a little bit and start looking at the symptoms, you want to start looking at where the symptoms are coming from. Is it thyroid? Your inability to speak your truth? I mean, symptoms are not shocking when you really start to understand the body isn't that difficult to understand. Migraines, it's your body really struggling with what you know is correct versus how you're really appearing in the world. Pain is resistance to doing what it is that you know is the right way to go. So if you're struggling with pain that nobody can seem to figure out why it's happening, I want you to start thinking about what am I resisting? What am I knowing is true? What's my knowing, as we call it here? That truth that we know we have at our core when we trust it. What's going on? Pain is just simply resistance at a core level. Digestive issues is your body not being able to really hold boundaries, set identities in a way that really resonates with our authentic selves, right? Structural issues. This is us at a very core issue, a very core level of fear and fight or flight, right? Fatigue. The body is just too tired. It can't figure it out. It can't get the energy that it needs. It's because all of the resources that it has is defending this conflict internally of who I really am versus who I feel I have to show up as in order to stay safe. Yeah, Alicia said, no pain, but my entire being does not want to deal with the people who love me any longer. Right. So then there's this idea of what is love. When our love or our concept of love is transactional, which we've talked about many times, we learn early on that we have to do something in order to receive love or protection or safety. That's where we get very confused and the body doesn't know how to appropriately show up in the universe, in the world. So think of how many times you've done something in order to receive love or attention or security. These all go back to a core, basic, hardwired level of need. And if you don't feel safe, you don't feel you're being paid attention to, you don't feel you matter, you don't feel like you're being seen or heard or understood, That goes back to a core fear of being left behind from the tribe, the original group into which we were born. And social media is making all of this very much worse. Right? The idea that we have to have likes, it's a transaction. We put something out there, and if we don't get the like, and we're not being seen, and we're not being heard, and we're not being understood, maybe we're not loved, maybe we won't be protected, maybe we'll be left behind. And when we are alone, chances of our survival go way down. This is all hardwiring. So the question now remains, why do we keep going back and saying, well, where's the pill? Where's the quick fix? Where's the food that I can suddenly stop eating and make everything better? And I'm not saying diet isn't important. Anthony and I are trained nutritionists. We're always going to tell you food has something to do with it. But the core root issues go deeper than that. Yes, changing your diet absolutely can help. Yes, eating the right foods for you absolutely can help. But there's still something under that. And it comes back to what our body believes makes us safe. So as you identify with who you really are, I want you to get super clear about where you are on the narcissist empath scale. Don't want you on either extreme side of that. You got to be somewhere in the middle, just kind of floating back and forth here. Not here, not here, right? Because when we're in one or the other, the body actually is there because it believes it's not safe. It believes at a core level there's something going wrong. So if you're identifying with this, is this starting to make sense to you? And this is something that you want to work on a little bit more. And a lot of the reasons why some of the processes that maybe you've done so far haven't been working, or aren't working well enough, or don't hold long-term success, it's because you haven't gotten to the root issues and the root causes of this. And the types of things that work to help with this get underneath the surface of the basics that you've probably done so far, which you may have felt like you did a lot of work. But this is why some of you may be struggling with excessive talk therapy or medications, or even positive mantras and meditation may not be working for you, because they're just helping you stay and ruminate in the same identity of the empath. I know when in the yoga community and in the spiritual community and in the holistic healing community, a lot of people are so proud of the fact that they're empaths and they're healers and they're helping people, but they also are suffering in many ways because they can't get out of that identity of I have to help others in order to exchange that transaction for love or being seen or being whole in my empathic side. Like it's super, I don't say rewarded, reinforced in all of those communities that you should be an empath and you should be more connected. What they're missing in that conversation is the connection isn't to be understanding where everybody else is feeling. It's first where we're connected to ourselves. And if that is severed or that isn't connected appropriately, the idea that you're looking outside of yourself to connect to other people to understand who you really are actually reinforces the struggle. So if you'd like to talk about this a little bit more, if this is resonating with you a little bit more, Anthony, is there any other things on that I know we talked about that I wanted to make sure I didn't miss?
No, it all makes sense though.
One of the things that you guys may do is to check out, if you haven't done this already, where some of the other root issues are. We developed this, it's really more of an assessment tool than a quiz, but we developed this assessment tool and it's really powerful. It's very effective and it's very well connected to what to do next, because it helps you really pinpoint one of the biggest issues or root cause issues of why you're struggling with what you're struggling with. So you can go and take this quiz. It's free. I highly recommend you don't have to, but you can put your email address in there and it'll send you everything in a PDF form so that you really have it, because it's a lot of information. So it's nourish123.com/quiz. And again, it's much more of an assessment tool. I highly recommend you give yourself like 10 or so minutes to really fill this out and get the information so it's really effective and accurate and helpful to you. But if you're like, I've been there, done that, I want more, and I really want to just move forward and talk to you guys a little bit more, you can also just book a call on our calendar to have a quick conversation on what would it be like to work with us and see what our clients see as far as the healing, because you really do have to get underneath the surface, get into more of what's going on at the subconscious level, which consciously you don't know and cannot will your way out of. There is no willing your way out of this. So if any of you are struggling with things like digestive issues, struggling to lose weight, your issues with pain, anxiety, overwhelm, burnout, thyroid disorders, hormone imbalance, a lot of you are powerful women who have been doing this. You're the one people come to for answers. You can't come up with the answers on your own because you can't see the reflection outside of yourself, because you've built kind of this powerful block to protect yourself from seeing what really is sometimes. So book a call with us. You can jump on a call. It's going to be a short 15, 20-minute session just to discuss what does it really look like here? Is there a way that we can really work together that's really effective for what you're doing? And if you're identifying with a lot of what we talked about today, I absolutely think that we should have a conversation. So you can go to nourish123.com/heal. So nourish123.com/heal. If you want to just book a call and let's have a really direct conversation about what you need and if we're the right people to help you get there. Or you can also go to nourish123.com/quiz, pop over and really see what the assessment is there. All right. Anthony, anything else?
Nope. That's it. Just Alicia asked where the quiz was, and there you go.
There you go.
Nourish123.com/quiz.
There you go. You can also go right to our website, but it's the faster way. It's just nourish123.com/quiz. All right. Well, you guys have a good rest of your April Fools today. This is definitely not a joke. You need to start looking at what is the core underlying root issue. And it's not something that you're just going to find on a lab. It's underneath that. So, all right. It was good to see you guys today.